Warning! Kinda Murdery contains adult themes, explicit language, and descriptions of violence. It is not suitable for anyone, and we recommend you stop listening now.
California's rugged and scenic northwestern corner is the beginning of the great Pacific Northwest. A region of untamed and primitive beauty.
And the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department has now joined efforts with the Arcata Police.
Growers living off the grid. Humboldt County also has the highest rate of missing person cases in the state. Where 60% of marijuana is grown in the United States.
There's a lot of evil here. A lot of evil.
This is Kinda Murdery, and you're entering the Emerald Triangle. Wow, that was nuts. Hey everybody, welcome to Kinda Murdery. Thank you for deciding to be here. This season we're talking about the place where I grew up. It's the northwest corner of California, and it's called the Emerald Triangle because the three counties that make up the triangle, that's Humboldt, Mendocino, and Trinity, produce about 60% of the marijuana in the United States every year. But marijuana is not the only thing up there, you know, and it's also not the only source of criminal activity. We're going to be talking about a con man, and specifically just how murdery a business forging wills can be. Forging wills in Mendocino County, near the town of Fort Bragg, California. Let's talk a little bit about Fort Bragg. It's located on the One, and like its more famous cousin to the south, Big Sur, it boasts those same stunning coastlines and ancient forests upon which the reputation of the Pacific Coast Highway is built. Downtown Fort Bragg is a picturesque tourist trap of an old west town. It's famous for the skunk train and Glass Beach. What's Glass Beach? Well, back in the day, the citizens of Fort Bragg used to just dump their trash over a cliff into the ocean. Well, that smashed a lot of glass, and over the years, the surf tumbled that glass into Joseph's Technicolor Pebble Beach. Fort Bragg, where stunning natural beauty meets the housekeeping practices of the common barn swallow. Our story today begins in the now ghost town of Westport, California, about 13 miles from Fort Bragg. I'm taking you back now to 1892, where an illiterate but very wealthy landowner named Fred Dutch Helt from Fort Bragg is blind drunk in his favorite dive bar, when he suddenly becomes violently, Linda Blair pukingly, head-spinningly ill. Well, Fred is canny enough to suspect that he may have been poisoned by his new friend Edgar A. Martin, a perfectly dressed and coiffed, smooth-talking dandy who helped Dutch I'm-not-a-reader Helt to draw up his will. Fred summons his brother to help him draft a new will, but he dies before the brother arrives. So let's unpack it in The Con Man and the Dutchman. But before we do that, I gotta introduce you to my guest today. I'm here with my buddy. You've heard him before on season 1 of the show. He's awesome. He's hilarious. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Niall Madden.
Yes.
Hey, Niall.
Hey, what's up, Zevon?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I can't wait to hear about the SlickDandyDooda.
SlickDandyDooda. I think you just coined the right name for the story.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about this. I'm also excited just to hear about the Emerald Triangle because, the only thing I know about it really is through you. This is very foreign to me. This is like another planet.
You know, I grew up there, and I was born in 1981, and I swear to God, I can go back today, and it looks exactly the same. Locals will joke a lot because of the quality of the marijuana coming out of there that it's sort of an island of the lotus eaters, and yet, within that stasis, there's a god-awful lot of criminal activity.
You know, I read a quote that I think you'd find pretty funny. It was somebody described the Emerald Triangle as the hippies went to India, smuggled out seeds up their asses, and came here. And then
That's great.
Great. Yeah, and I mean, I think it was actually technically Afghanistan. The person got it wrong, but I really like that. I mean, that's a great origin story.
That's amazing. Wavy Gravy, who used to MC all the Grateful Dead shows back in the 60s, you know, he once called Arcata, which is the town that I'm from, he said Arcata, where the 60s meet the sea. Based on what you just said, maybe it should be Arcata, where the 60s meet the seas.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. So
All right.
it really is.
So
it really is this weed paradise, huh?
Hey, you want to get high, man? That's how they do. They got wooden balls, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of good pot up there. So here's basically what happens. The wealthy rancher, whose name is Fred Helt, who's known as Dutch Fred. Dutch Fred is from the Fort Bragg area. He travels to Ukiah, which is about 70-some miles to the south, and he checks into a hotel. Back in the day, anytime a wealthy or important personage came into the town, they printed that information in the newspaper. Well, you might imagine how useful that would be for a con man looking for wealthy marks. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, basically, the con man, who's going by the name Edgar A. Martin, he shows up in the Fort Bragg and then Ukiah area sometime in December of 1891. He quickly befriends Helt and becomes like his bosom buddy and constant companion. And then in February of 1892, he murders Helt by poison. He poisons him in a dive bar in Westport, California, which is now a ghost town not far from Fort Bragg. And then the next day he shows up with a perfectly executed will that makes him the sole executor
Naturally.
of Helt's estate. Now, that's just kind of the outline of what you're going to hear about. Here's what happens. Helt is in a bar in this Westport, California, and he's blind drunk. He suddenly starts to feel really ill. So he goes to the bathroom. He's probably vomiting everywhere. He gets suspicious that he may have been poisoned or he may be about to die because he's just that damn sick. I think probably also that he now all of a sudden suspects that his new friend, Martin, might have something to do with it. So while he's dying in this bar, he sends for his brother. He sends for his brother. He says, brother, come quick. I think I might be dying, and I want to write a new will.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. In other words, as he's dying of poison, like shit-face wasted.
I mean, he's thinking ahead. Yeah, nothing slips by this guy. Except for poison.
No, he suddenly has a moment of total clarity where he goes, "Oh man, I probably shouldn't have trusted my new bosom buddy Edgar A. Martin to help me draw up a will." Because another thing about Helt, he was illiterate. He could not read. Okay, so he sends. So
he's drafting wills, but he can't read. Okay. At least he respects the power of the written word.
Right, yeah, there you go. Pen is mightier than the sword and all that. He sends for his brother being like, shit, I need to write a new will before I die. But he dies before the brother arrives. Okay.
R.I.P.
So, I know, right? So the next day, here comes Edgar A. Martin, who is described as being, just dressed to the nines. You can picture this guy wearing sort of the satin vest and the shiny boots and just, everybody else looks like they're dying of dysentery and covered in dust in the Old West, and he's shining like a diamond, So he goes and he brings this will to the attorney. Apparently the signature is real and everything else. However, the attorney is immediately suspicious. He goes, Helt can't read. He usually never signs anything unless I'm there. In addition, you just showed up in this town. Nobody knows who you are. The will actually leaves the bulk of Helt's estate to his wife. So there's nothing odd about that. Here's the part that gets odd. The will makes Edgar A. Martin, the dandy, the new friend, the sole executor of the will in what they called then without bond. So, meaning no oversight. Back in the day, if you were going to be the executor of a will, they could put a bond on you, almost like a bond on a prisoner. So if you then went on to dispense the funds in some crazy way that everybody thought was criminal or bullshit, they could invoke the bond and you could essentially be hunted down by a bounty hunter.
An Edwardian dog, the bounty hunter.
Yeah. Exactly right. Clint Eastwood, the man with no name with his little stubby cigar, will come after you. Edgar A. Martin gets arrested because they're like, we don't know you. Helt died out of nowhere, and now you're the sole executor of the estate with no oversight. You must have killed him. And it's determined that he must have died of poison because here he was in his favorite bar, drunk, and all of a sudden he's vomiting everywhere like an 1890s old man Linda Blair, and then he just dies on the spot before his brother can arrive. So
why were so many people going out of their way to cover for Helt's? I don't understand. Why didn't somebody just? He never thought, I'm going to learn how to read. I know how important it is, but. And then he's like, I'm ascending and people are picking out, they're picking up, discrepancies in the story. Everyone's looking out for Helt. How do you say Helt?
Helt, yes, Heldt.
Helt.
So you were saying why didn't
Well, it's just like a lot of people are going out of their way to help. And the strangest part about it is that he seems to think of everything, but yet he never learned how to read. He knows the value of learning how to read, but he's not prepared to waste his time doing it. He just wants everyone in the town to run around sort of covering his ass for him.
Oh, well, maybe you just can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't know, but also Helt was, extraordinarily wealthy, and rich people tend to be accustomed to having people wipe
Well, this is what my dad does with anything that involves an electronic chip. It doesn't matter where you are. He expects you to drive home and to literally turn on the remote for him. He just refuses to learn how. He's like, it's not for me to learn. It's for you to learn and for you to do for me.
I've earned the right to be completely incompetent in this area, son.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I get it, man. I think that's how you really show that you've made it.
Yeah, so one of the things that makes this will seem legitimate is that it's witnessed. But the same thing that makes it seem legitimate makes it seem a little shady, and that is that it is witnessed by the Donahues, husband and wife, who happen to be the owners of the bar where Helt died.
Wow.
Everybody's like, well, that's a little convenient. So, of course, they think that he's been poisoned. And here's the first image that, I hate to say that I really enjoyed because it's pretty macabre, but they need to prove that he was murdered and that he didn't just instantaneously die from some new vomiting disease.
White girl wasted.
So
they need to prove he wasn't more than white girl wasted.
Right. He wasn't just slamming White Claws and taking laxatives to cut weight and shitting himself in the shower. Right. So what they do is they remove his stomach, and they're going to, and for some reason I picture the Gary Larson stomach with legs from the Far Side, just walking around talking to people. But they remove his stomach.
And then they realize they have no idea what to do with this removed stomach to determine anything.
That's kind of exactly it. So what they're gonna do, is they're gonna send the stomach to San Francisco to be tested for poison. Now, Ukiah is over 100 miles from San Francisco. Fort Bragg, I think, is 173 miles. We're talking 1891, so we don't have cars. It's a pretty rural area. There's no train running from Ukiah to San Francisco. So they're either slamming this human stomach into a cardboard box or a wooden crate like Indiana Jones 4 and shipping it to San Francisco and just kind of crossing their fingers. Or they've got, a stagecoach and the Wells Fargo box is packed full of ice with the stomach on ice, and the guy's like, yeah, and galloping as fast as he can.
Yeah, the Pony Express.
Yeah, exactly. The pony. Man, I wish I had something more clever than like the Pony Stomach Express.
What was the name of what's the Pony Express's catchphrase? You're going back there like rain or shine.
We'll get your Dutch stomach to Frisco, guaranteed.
We'll get your gut. We'll get your gut where it needs to go.
Oh my gosh. So here's what happens. They arrest Martin for, at the very least, the forging of Helt's will, and at the most, the murder of Helt. In fact, the newspaper says something to the effect of, if the scientists find poison in the stomach, Helt's neck will not be at a premium. I love how descriptively and poetically they could speak about horrific things back in the day. And then they sort of brace this husband and wife team that runs the bar on these signatures. Now this will was dated December 15th. Helt died in February, and the will, of course, was witnessed, but the husband and wife, the Donahues, under pressure from law enforcement, admit that, in fact, they signed this will after Helt had already died, and that Martin came to them and he offered them $1,000 to sign the will, $1,000 from the eventual monies that he would get when he became sole executor.
What is that adjusted for inflation, like infinity?
That would be about, let's see,
about infinity.
Of $3 million is about $30,000.
Yeah,
I think. Let's see. You can do the math for me. If $100,000 is $3 million, then $1,000 would be 30 grand a piece. That's nothing to sneeze at, right?
Yeah, man.
But
I'll do it right now. We can go. I'll poison anyone you want right now. $30,000.
Yeah.
I'll do it for $30.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I was looking at inflation numbers the other day, and if you really want to get pissed off about something, in 1978, which back then a brand new Cadillac Eldorado costs about 11 grand instead of 55 or 60. Yeah, but back in 1978, the median income was $30,000.
Yeah.
Year. You want to know what the median income is in 2021?
Negative 15 grand debt.
No, yeah, but we're talking income here. $36,000.
Yeah.
So
things are going well.
A new Cadillac costs 5 times as much, but your average worker is making $6 grand more than they did in 1978. Yeah, everything's working out. Everything's working out.
Yeah.
So as the authorities are pressing the Donahues, they actually admit that they, as I had said, signed this will after Helt was dead, and then as soon as on the promise of money, and then as soon as they signed it, he said, "You have now committed a state prison offense. You better not tell anybody, or you're gonna go to prison with me. So sign this and shut the fuck up."
Fuck. Seems pretty airtight to me.
Once Martin is arrested, there's another little murder story I want to tell you about that's tangentially related. I'm going to put a quick pin in the con man and the Dutchman and hit the details of the Greenwood murder. Okay, so in the first week of February, about a year prior, 2 men broke into Captain Greenwood's home in Napa, overpowered him, forced him to drink a narcotic that rendered him stupefied, which maybe was the White Claw or maybe was laudanum.
It was the Four Loko.
Good times. So they render him stupefied. Then they bind him and gag him. They ransack his house. Shortly thereafter, his wife arrives home. They shoot her, kill her instantly, and then they shoot Captain Greenwood in the head twice. But he, and this is incredible, so much for the efficiency of the double tap, because Captain Greenwood somehow manages to survive and report the crime. Now, this is one of the most sensationalist murders that just captures the imagination of the newspaper and everyone in the region. And they're looking constantly for the perpetrators of the Greenwood murder, and they catch one of them. This year later, when everything with Helton Martin happened, they've caught one of them, who is a mentally ill German man named Schmidt. But they're still looking for they're still looking for Schmidt's accomplice, a man named A. Moore. Now remember that name. So
his first name was A?
Well, they don't. It never said what his first name actually was.
His first name was
just
A.
period Moore. Yeah, A moron. It's like that old Underneath the Bleachers by Seymour Butts. The Yellow River by I.P. Freely.
Dick
Okay,
Gazinia.
that's enough of that.
Mike Hunt.
Dick
Gazinia.
Oh man, I know a Mike Hunt.
I know a guy named Dick Small.
How do you name your son Richard when his last?
I'll tell you why.
Small?
He was the fourth. He was the fourth, and he refused to be called Richard. He said, "No, I'm Dick." So on his SATs, it said Small Dick. And he was very, very proud, Small Dick.
So Martin is arrested for forgery and possible murder, and then everybody gets really excited because he fits the description of the Greenwood murderer. So they send for Captain Greenwood, and they send for the sheriff who was the overseeing officer of the Greenwood murder. Captain Greenwood arrives and basically says, I don't think it's him, but I wouldn't know if it was him anyway. I'd just been shot in the head twice when it all happened, so can't help you. And then the sheriff comes and sees him and goes, well, I've never seen him, so I can't positively identify him. But he says, if in fact Martin is not the Greenwood killer, then there's no use even looking for anyone else because he fits the description exactly. But supposedly, when the sheriff is interviewing Martin about the Greenwood killings, Martin goes out of his way to say nothing about Napa. But he does mention something that they all believe is incriminating. You see, the Greenwood killer was known for being a tremendous horseman who made a career of breaking mules in the Hawaiian Islands. And when he's talking to the sheriff, Edgar A. Martin mentions that he broke over 200 mules in the Hawaiian Islands. The paper goes on to say that people who knew Martin in Hawaii say that he was a horseman of unparalleled skill. Now, this all happens on March 2nd, this interview with Martin about whether he might be not just a forger and not just the murderer of Dutch Fred, but also the Greenwood killer that everyone's been hunting for a year. What's completely unclear to me, and please, Niall, help me on this if you can, how did they get a hold of his Hawaiian friends?
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
In 1892 to attest that he was the world's best horseman and mule breaker.
I believe him. Right. Weren't we still attempting to conquer the Hawaiians?
Yeah. I mean,
it was like Captain Cook had just arrived there before and had his head chopped off about 100 years prior, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm pretty sure they didn't have there wasn't long distance telephone to the Hawaiian Islands yet. It's like that they sent the world's fastest canoe all the way to Waikiki, and everyone was like, oh yeah, Edgar A. Martin, which of course he would have gone by a different name in Hawaii. Oh yeah, he was a great horseman and breaker of mules.
Yeah, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to send Lion Johnny over to Hawaii to get some,
Yeah, right. So the lab tests, and I would love to know what a lab test looked like in 1892, but the lab tests come back on the stomach, and they can't confirm that there was any form of poison in his gut. Now, that may be because
we can neither confirm nor deny that this is a stomach. We don't know yet.
Right. The doctor's like, what is that? Holy shit, I've never seen anything like that before.
That shit's fucked up, man. He died of a fucked up. Yeah.
What are you giving me? I mean, of course, it probably took like a week to get that like festering gut from Ukiah to San Francisco via horseback. So, I mean, maybe that's why there was no longer any trace of poison. But anyway, they say, well, we can't get Martin on murder, although he must have done it. But he's gonna go to trial for forgery. And you might wonder why or how was Martin, if he was indeed a forger, which, spoiler alert, he was, how did he get so good at forgery? Because remember, everybody said that Helt's signature was legitimate and he must have been tricked because he was illiterate. Now at the trial, handwriting experts come out and they say, no, it's a forged signature. Well, how did Martin get so good at forgery?
How do you forge a signature that no one's ever done before? He doesn't know how to write.
Well,
he just put an X?
He knows how to sign. He knows how to sign his own name.
That's a forged X.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh man, he knows how to sign his own name apparently. But I love the idea that it's just an X, and they're like, nope, that's not his X.
This is not an authentic X.
All right, so here's what he used to do. He would go into the Hall of Records in the courthouse in any given town, and he would check out documents on court cases of wealthy people suing each other. And then he would go find some quiet, undisturbed corner, and he would just sit there for hours tracing paper, tracing the signatures of wealthy litigants until he had them down perfectly. He just
sounds like an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, if it was in Silicon Valley right now, they'd put him in a black turtleneck and call him a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give it to him. The guy's. I mean, this is like Catch Me If You Can. This is. I don't know. I think he earned it.
So it almost sounds that way, except we're leaving out one little thing. This guy was not just a fraudster and a forger, but he was, by all accounts and appearances, and I'll get into the evidence of this, probably one of the more prolific serial killers in California history.
Wow.
And I'm about to take you there. So he goes on trial, and by June of 1892, he's sentenced to 14 years at Folsom Prison. Now,
I mean, you get that for like a parking ticket now in Los Angeles, an unpaid parking ticket. That's crazy. 14 years?
Yeah.
Oh, for the forging.
Well, 14 years is the max sentence for forgery. But I mean, it was very common for people to get a lot less than that for murder. So at least at the time, a year or 2 or maybe 7. But 14 was a big sentence, and the judge actually talks about it, and he says that even though we can't prove that you murdered Helt, the circumstances of this, where you had just met him, then he dies, then you show up with a perfectly forged will that gives you control of his estate. I mean, in what world did you not murder him? Like, how insanely lucky are you?
In the startup world of present-day America.
Okay, so forgery is one thing, but why don't we talk about serial murder for a second?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the incredible CV, the curriculum vitae of murdery behavior that was revealed as part of Martin's trial. How was it revealed? Well, they took a photograph of him, during which it says that he did everything he could to distort his face. So I imagine he's screwing his face up like a 3-year-old who's being forced to eat Brussels sprouts they don't like.
Wow.
But despite that, the photo came out pretty good, and then they circulated the photo throughout the state. And what they arrived on, and no big surprise here, is that Edgar A. Martin's real name was A.E. McDuffie.
That sounds like a fake name.
A.K.A. A.E. Morton. And he had a decades-long run as the boldest, most prolific, and most successful con man in the state of California. I mean, assuming if you can call someone who ends up with a 14-year prison term successful. But it turns out that there's a chapter 2 to this Edgar A. Martin story that gets even wilder and supports the idea that you probably should call him successful despite his prison sentence. So, but let's talk a little bit about the resume of this guy. There really was not a region of the Golden State that escaped his prolific defrauding. Okay?
Yeah.
So he first appears in San Francisco as a young grifter in 1858. And by the 1870s, he's a peddler and a horse trader, and inevitably whoever he trades horses with gets like the most pathetic ricket-ridden horse on earth. And by 1882, he heads out to, you guessed it, the Mojave Desert, to no other place than the ghost town of Calico, which would become Yermo. He shows up in Calico with a peddling wagon and a beautiful woman who's supposedly his wife. He's a tin peddler. So he's so successful peddling tin. That sounds like it's a euphemism for something.
Yeah.
I was peddling tin all night last night. But he becomes so successful peddling tin that he opens a tin store. And then he starts a freighting business, a mule freighting business to haul borax out of the mines, call back to the town of Trona, with a man named Quinn. So Quinn dies almost immediately after their partnership is established, leaving our man McDuffie, a.k.a. Edgar A. Martin, in possession of several mule teams and a freighting business. He trades half of his mule freighting business and a note, basically a check for $3,000 to a man named Seymour Elf. Could we just stop and marinate for a second in what a wonderful name Seymour Elf is? I mean,
yeah.
Again, that's like a expanded Hobbit universe, like a companion novel. Seymour Elf.
They got some interesting names.
So he trades half his mule freighting business and a note and a check for $3,000 to Seymour Elf for a half interest in Elf's Pahrump Ranch. And this is the point at which our young shrinking violet of a con man, Mr. McDuffie, really blossoms as both a swindler and a forger. First off, he never pays a dime on that $3,000 check. Inside of 3 months, there's a lien against his mule teams for outstanding private debts amounting to $2,800. He then convinces Elf to settle his debts in exchange for the other half of his mule freight business. It's like, Elf, buddy, come on, smell the rat bastard when he walks by you. So a few weeks after that, he shows up with a carefully drawn note stating that Elf owes him an additional $2,200 for his half of the mule freight business, to buy McDuffie's half of the mule freight business, and that this promissory note is witnessed by an A.E. Morton, who's another one of McDuffie's aliases. Poor Christmas Elf. He fights this in court. He loses and ends up having to declare insolvency to get out from under his debts.
Jeez.
So just to track that for you for a minute, he trades half his mule freighting business to a guy for half the guy's ranch, convinces the guy to pay off all of his personal debts, and then succeeds in asserting that the guy owes him another $2,200 to the point where the guy ends up having to give up all of his worldly possessions. So,
I mean, what a time to be alive.
Yeah,
I want to build a time machine, just go back there.
Right. Well, here's the thing, and you'll see it as we work our way through the resume of this con man. You know, your typical horse pulling a carriage could travel about 40 miles a day. So you could fleece an entire community, murder people willy-fucking-nilly, and if you could get 40 to 80 miles away, you could start a brand new life and do it again. And that's what it seems like only McDuffie figured out, or only McDuffie was morally bankrupt enough to do. here's the next thing he does. During his mule freighting borax days between Calico and the town of Daggett, he becomes great friends with a man named Delaney who owns a store in Daggett. So McDuffie and his wife, they're bosom buddies with Delaney. They're hanging out all the time with him. They're always seen at his store until one day people oversee Delaney kicking them out of the store and yelling that he hates the sight of them. Shortly thereafter, poor Mr. Delaney dies, and McDuffie, you guessed it, produces a copy of Delaney's will that leaves $3,000 from the Delaney estate to McDuffie's wife. It's disputed, but McDuffie wins and gets the money. Okay?
Wow.
He was really one thing.
This guy's good at what he does. He's like he's an influencer.
Yeah, it's like Malcolm Gladwell says, right? It's 10,000 hours to excellence. He just sat there tracing rich guys' signatures for 10,000 hours until he was essentially a fucking camera, you know?
It's incredible.
It really is. It really is. I mean, if only he was taking this money and doing something worthwhile with it, he could be some kind of a Robin Hood character instead of one of the more despicable people I've ever learned about. So, okay, so he's just murdered and defrauded Delaney. He next enters into a partnership in the Alvord Quartz Mine out in the same area about 15 miles from Daggett with a man named Dent. Dent dies suspiciously, but McDuffie is suspected but never charged. So he goes from being half owner of a quartz mine to being full owner of a quartz mine almost immediately. His next partner in the same mine is a man named Isaac Weaver. But Weaver catches McDuffie with a forged bill of sale for his half of the mine. So he murders his partner, takes the whole mine, gets partners up, gets money from another guy, partners up, and then somehow that guy he's like hiding in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet like I'd be reading my iPhone. He's forging a bill of sale of that other half of the mine. You know, Weaver's really got to take a dump, barges into the bathroom, sees the guy on the john with the fake bill of sale in his...
I mean, what did he have, like a special forger's kit with him? I mean, how did he do this?
Yeah, I wish I knew. I mean, I'm going to be checking Amazon as soon as we're done with recording the show. So Weaver takes him to court. And so McDuffie drops his claim to Weaver's half of the mine. And at this point, he's so discredited, he has to get out of town in a hurry. So he runs off to Victorville, like I said, about 40 miles, about a 1 day's horse ride away. And in Victorville, he partners with his brother in a marble quarry. Now listen to what this wonderful guy does with the marble quarry. He uses it to defraud primarily school marms, female school teachers from Los Angeles, with the promises of rich mining fortunes. So what he does is he's got this mine, he staffs it with miners, he finds a young innocent school teacher, he brings her out to the mine and he says, you know, look, I've got this incredible mine. I've got another parcel of property here that's also extremely rich. You know, you can claim it, because back then you could just sort of claim unworked land from the government. All you have to do is pay me $50 to file the paperwork for you. Now again, $50. What do we decide that $1,000 is 30 grand? Well, that means $50 is
significant.
$1,500 from a school. Teachers don't make anything now. You know they didn't make anything in 1880s, right? Yeah. So he defrauds so many school teachers that eventually, and you know, this is government bureaucracy for you, it takes like the mining office fucking DMV, you know, the ruined dreams of 100 school teachers before they finally say, hey, McDuffie, you're not allowed to file any more paperwork around here anymore. Oh, man.
Jesus.
I know. Like just when you start to call him like a professional, an influencer, he's amazing. And then you're like, oh, but he was also bilking young single school teachers out of like their life savings on the regular.
This is like John DeLorean, another con artist.
Yeah. And so then he gets to, you're right, John, that's a whole other ball of wax, right?
Yeah, but he would go after old people who take their retirement. I mean, he just loved the art of the con. He couldn't stop himself.
At least could you say in DeLorean's defense, or maybe not, because I don't know that well, but that at least he was like pursuing a dream of the ultimate car or something, as where McDuffie was just an asshole making himself rich?
No, I mean, I think the guy was literally just trying to get more money to get more plastic surgery. Get like a fake Jay Leno chin and things like that. I don't, because the car, if you see what happened with the car, he spent very little time developing it. He cared more about the status. I mean, every place he ever worked, they fired him. He would sleep with everyone's wives and shit. So
no wonder he was friends with Robert Evans. They were sleeping with everyone's wives and getting plastic surgery together.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Robert Evans. You have an amazing body of work.
He's got an amazing body.
So his reputation in Los Angeles and San Bernardino goes to hell. He finally has to basically run away in the night because he defrauds all of the miners that he had employed at his marble quarry out of their wages, to the point that they're starving and standing in front of him and his brother's office with torches and pitchforks like it's Edward Scissorhands. And so they run off in the middle of the night. And when I said that he defrauded the entire state of California, I wasn't kidding. Now, he started his career in San Francisco, then he's working his way south. Well, where does he go from San Bernardino? He goes to San Diego. So now he's made it basically to the Mexican border, right? And in San Diego, he opens up a real estate office, and this is where he really undertakes to further perfect his signature tracing and forgery skills. He really puts some time into sitting in the records office now. So he leaves for San Diego in 1887. In 1890, San Diego resident E.B. Dara dies on a hunting trip in Oregon where another hunter mistakes him for a deer. So basically, he went hunting
with... Dick Cheney do that?
Yeah. I was going to say, he went hunting with Dick Cheney's grandfather, and he gets shot to death. Not long after that, another San Diego resident, John Hirander, dies very suddenly, presumably of heart failure, until out of the woodwork comes McDuffie with wills for both men's estates, signing them over to him, and again witnessed by A.E. Morton. So, I mean, this guy's incredible. So here's the thing, though. Hirander never signed anything without his attorney either. So the attorney hires a detective. While investigating this, the detective befriends a woman in Los Angeles named Foster, who's known about town, and I love this nickname, as the Mud Hen. If you want to expound it all on why somebody might be called the Mud Hen, feel free. But
the Mud Hen?
The Mud Hen, H-E-N. The Mud Hen.
I can't even begin to guess. I have no idea.
And even if I could, I'm afraid.
I wish I had a nickname like that. We don't have enough nicknames like that anymore.
Yeah, no, it's true. Didn't the mighty Casey from like Casey at the Bat play for the Mud Hens? There is no joy in Mudville or what have you. Mighty Casey has struck out. So anyway, she says the detective meets the Mud Hen, and the Mud Hen says that the Delaney will. Now remember, the Delaney will, you actually have to go back a few forgeries and murders to get to that one. He was the general store owner in Daggett who eventually went from being best friends to hating him and kicking him out of the store, and then died and left $3,000 to the wife. She says the Delaney will was a forgery that McDuffie drew up in her rooms in Los Angeles. So he skedaddles again, And now he shows up in Fresno, which is a solid 338 miles from San Diego. He's getting more careful. He's no longer doing these 40-mile jumps. He went 338 miles. And he's trying to enforce a $6,000 collection, $6,000, on the estate of a man named Warren Emery Burt. But Burt always signs his name W.E. So again, we have a suspicious attorney who again hires a detective. This will was witnessed by a man named J.D. Russell, who in this case is not just an alias of McDuffie, but an actual person. So the detective confronts Russell, and Russell shows him a note he got from McDuffie that says he'll pay $500 to Russell for witnessing the will when he gets the $6,000 from the estate of Mr. W.E. Burt. Now, let me ask you something. What kind of a mouth-breathing idiot takes a $500 check from someone he's helping to forge a will?
I guess a guy thought he was a brother in arms with him, right?
Right. I mean, he's helping to forge a will, and yet he's certain the check's going to be good. Your note's good. Your note's real. It's just this will we're working on together that's fake. But yeah, he's a real. You're right. I shouldn't laugh at poor J.D. Russell. He's been taken in by the greatest con man in maybe not just California history, but maybe even American history. But so while the detective is talking to J.D. Russell, Russell says to the detective that McDuffie had shown him a packet of 20 forged wills of wealthy men still living.
This guy doesn't stop working.
He doesn't stop working.
He's a workaholic.
Right. He is. He's also a fucking serial killer, right? Because we know at this point that he's already killed at least half a dozen people, and he literally has his next 20 victims, like, in his back pocket, ready to rock.
I mean, this is like Jeff Bezos. Amazon just clones and copies shit that people have, puts them out of business. Maybe we're going to find out he's just murdering everyone, too.
Maybe we are. We'll have to talk to the Kinda Murdery attorneys about slander and libel, but I would assume we're just having a little fun there.
No, I'm dead serious. Jeff Bezos is a serial killer.
The opinions expressed by Niall Madden are his own alone and not those of Kinda Murdery. So, yeah, I mean, the moral of the story here is that McDuffie's wife disappeared. All of his partners died mysteriously. He inherited all of their wealth. He's a freaking serial killer. I mean, that term may not have been created until 1981, but it quite clearly belonged to 1891. So his next crime was the poisoning of Dutch Helt, which you know all about already. And he was, in fact, found guilty of the forgery, but not of the murder, although the judge even said in his sentencing that he presumes that McDuffie had committed the murder, and he's sent to Folsom for 14 years.
14 years? I mean, I could do 14 years in Folsom for all that money.
Right. Well, what became of the money? And actually, you know what, Niall? You've put your finger on it. The second story that I'm going to tell is all about what became of the money and what actions and craziness was precipitated by looking for the answer to that question. But I want to turn the show over to you and regale the audience with some tales of wonder and woe, if you would, please.
Sure. Well, actually, first I need to go to the bathroom. Let me pee.
Can you use like a bedpan so that we can get the audio for the pod? Save it. Could you save it for the pod?
I'm gonna piss my pants if I don't do it right now. Oh, you want me to bring the microphone in there with me? Yeah.
All right, let's take a pee break.
What's the poison ivy situation like up in these woods up there? Because
oh man,
I am like deathly allergic to poison ivy.
Oh my gosh! So in the Emerald Triangle, we don't have poison ivy. But we do have poison oak, and I got to tell you a quick little story about that. So poison oak It has 3 little leaves, looks kind of like an oak leaf a little bit. Grows in a very dense bush. Actually kind of a beautiful plant. In the fall, it turns bright red. But, it's very bright and oily, and once it's pretty menacing looking. But here's the thing. In the winter, in the fall, all the leaves fall off of those poison oak bushes, and so they just look like bracken. And especially to that point, poison oak grows perfectly straight. Each piece of wood is like a long pencil or a 19th century schoolmaster's switch or something. So here's a quick version of the story. When my grandfather was a Boy Scout, they went out camping in the late fall, and as part of the camping trip, they were going to roast marshmallows, and their scoutmaster didn't know about poison oak somehow because I guess he hadn't done his homework.
That's a dead giveaway that guy is not really supposed to be a scoutmaster.
Yeah. So they sent the kids. He sent the kids out to get poison oak sticks, to get marshmallow s'more roasting sticks. And I mean, they happen upon this bush of a bunch of perfectly straight, like literally, if Plato or God himself had created the ideal marshmallow roasting stick in the wild, it would have been this bush of sticks. And so they cut a bunch of sticks and they all go back and they roast their marshmallows. Christ. Well, what does putting a poison oak stick in a flame do if not release all the oils directly?
Yeah, just the smoke comes up and you just breathe it in. Don't you just die from that?
Yeah, well, and also the oils of the poison oak soak into your marshmallow, which you then eat. Well, yeah, my grandfather, and this would have been probably in the mid-1930s, ended up in the hospital really bad off for, I think, a couple of weeks with just hideous poison oak. So that's my answer to your poison ivy question.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so deathly allergic to poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, all these things. And I still can never figure out what they look like. I'll go on Google Images and I'll try to figure it out. I forget it immediately afterwards. Everything looks like it to me. I'm scared of it. I had one experience with poison oak once. I was in college, and I remember it was St. Patrick's Day, and a buddy of mine in Philly, we decided we were going to go drink some 40s down by the river.
And you're Irish, right? So that's like already kind of a perilous holiday for you in terms of decision making, right?
Yeah. Right. So we're down there, we're drinking, and I'm saying, St. Patrick's Day, I mean, where the fuck is everybody? It's pretty quiet. There's no one out. I mean, it turns out it was actually the day before St. Patrick's Day. So I got drunk on the wrong day.
You were too drunk to read a calendar. This is like a joke writing itself.
And we went down by the Schuylkill River, and we were sitting on
the Schuylkill? Where's the Schuylkill River?
The Schuylkill runs through the center of Philadelphia.
We were sitting on a beautiful, pristine river. Then I imagine
it actually is. It's nice. There's it's pretty built up now and everything. But I also went to high school near the Schuylkill River, and we used to drink. We used to throw our keg parties up there on a hill in Fairmount Park, overlooking the river. So I'm sitting on this old stone wall. It's covered in moss. I thought it was covered in moss. It was covered in poison oak. So
oh my God.
The next day, I continued drinking, and the next day I'm out, and everyone just keeps asking me, like, is something wrong with you? Once I realized it was actually St. Patrick's Day, and I had no choice but to go back out and celebrate it. And I kept saying, I don't know what you're talking about. And they were like, it looks like you got a spider bite on your face. And my head was swelling throughout the day. It just continued to swell. So
like a helium balloon.
Right. I end up in the ER. I had no idea what was going on.
Right, because you'd been drunk on a bender for 2 days, so you weren't putting two and two together.
Right. And I thought I would get bitten by a spider at this stage because it was like a strange lump that started on my eyelid.
So you must have thought you were going to die. I mean,
well, I was extremely dehydrated, yeah. And then I was having trouble breathing. So,
right. And your head's about to pop like a giant pustule.
Right. Well, I wake up at it's about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up and I can't open my eyes. They're swollen shut. Jesus. And I'm feeling my way down the hall and banging on my my roommate's door, and I just remember he didn't want to open the door. He like unlocks it, opens it up, and he thought I was being just dramatic. And he took one look at me, and I could hear his voice change, and it got very urgent. He's like, "I got to get the car. You got to get to the ER." So I go there. Yeah.
So
and
he went.
Yeah,
like,
he
One
gasped.
of those?
He gasped,
Oh
and
my God.
he said my head looked like the fucking Elephant Man. And it's
I'm
around,
not an elephant. I'm a man. Sorry.
Yeah. It was around. It was around this time where I started to notice. It was the poison oak effects were starting to impact other regions. Well, when you're sitting on a
regions,
wall,
if you will.
right?
Yes. Okay.
When you're drinking, the weather was nice. You're drinking on a wall. You're sweating. You're wiping the sweat from your brow. You're pissing. You're holding your bird in your hands, which has got all the poison oak oils all over it.
Oh
my
God.
So literally, I was like, I think I'm dying. My penis is expanding. I can feel it. And I can't breathe.
Be honest. You were more worried about your penis than you were about your swelling head or the fact that you couldn't breathe or anything else. Is that true or false?
It was a combination of a lot of things. I didn't, because what happened was when they put me in the room, they rushed me in there. Sometimes you go to an ER if something's wrong with you.
You can have a gunshot wound and they'll make you sit for 6 hours. Yeah.
I swear to God, I came in, it was like parting of the Dead Sea, man. Everyone just they're just rushing me back there. They all thought I was actually going into anaphylactic shock. I thought I was dying.
Like you'd eaten too many shrimp or too much, or somebody had given you a spoonful of peanut butter or something.
Well, I came up to the front door. I was like, I am a man. Yeah.
They're like, it's John Merrick. They're like,
Joseph Merrick. You
Joseph.
freak. Yeah. I'm like, I am but a man.
I just want my shaving kit. Please let me go home with my shaving kit. Go ahead.
Was that in the David Lynch movie, or was that on the stage?
It's in the book. He's obsessed with this shaving kit that he will never.
He wants to shave his dick to make it look bigger.
His dream is to buy this like ebony, ivory, and silver rich man's shaving kit and just sort of stare at it the way a girl would at a dollhouse. I mean, it's really tragic. Okay, we're getting off track here. You're in the ER. They think you're the Elephant Man. They want your autograph. They're giving you toy shaving kits.
Yeah, I'm so hungover that I'm like having trouble. Like I'm like drifting in and out of consciousness, and they just keep. I mean, I don't want to tell them it's because I'm extraordinarily hungover and still drunk. I'm so dehydrated. They put me on. Well, first off, they immediately hooked me up to an IV.
Classic high school kid. You're about to die, but you don't want to admit that you've been drinking. Got it.
Right. And they're doing their clinicals. The nursing school is doing the clinicals, and I just happened to be there at this strange early hour where, students wouldn't be there. And of course, I recognized them. I've seen them around the campus, and I'm sitting there.
They're like 3 years older than you or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're, I don't want to have to pull my diseased bird out. My poison oak wang.
Your oaked up wang.
No, they're like, are you sure it's not anywhere else? And I was like, promise you it's not. Please.
You're like, the dong's fine. I swear the dong's fine.
Yeah, I was like, don't make me show it to you. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm gonna tell you, but it started swelling, and at first I was like, yeah, because it started swelling.
Free penis implant.
Yeah, and I was like, hell yeah. No, but you couldn't touch it, because I mean, the thing with scratching poison ivy is
spreads and gets worse.
Well, of course, but it also feels incredible, and you cannot stop it once you start the scratch. So the problem is when you have poison ivy on your penis, you cannot touch it. You can't scratch it. Because if you scratch it, you start slipping into a...
Right. And it's literally talking to you. It's like a little man with a greasy mustache being like, just do it. Scratch it. That's it.
Yeah.
You know you want to.
Oh, it was terrible. I mean, it took... I had to leave school and everything. It took 6 weeks of medication and everything. It was awful. I was on like a chemo dose of steroids. So, and they told me I should be walking around with an EpiPen, that I should always have one near me.
Jesus. So let's rewind a little bit, though, back to where you've got a bunch of, like, medical school students that are observing you as a test case, and you're afraid to mention that you've got poison ivy, poison oak on your penis. So did they ever find out about the poison ivy on the penis, or did you keep that one to yourself the whole time?
I kept it to myself, but they knew. They didn't actually see it. They didn't. I refused to pull it out. I said I don't have it there. I have it. You know what I mean? Listen. It was. I honestly thought I was gonna die. It was so bad. I could barely breathe. It was terrible. But it was really funny. My parents knew it was on my eyelids and my dick. And my dad's like, "You're always touching it. You're always that's because you're always touching it."
Good Irish Catholic families like, I told you you'd go blind if you didn't stop touching it.
And then I was like, "I can levitate when I scratch it, Father." And then then it was just like, touching it. Yeah, you just look like Freddy Krueger. You set yourself back 2 weeks. 2 months of recovery.
Oh my gosh!
My experience is anytime I see green, I want to firebomb it. I'm afraid it's going to have poison and oak or something scratchy in there.
Let's segue from one Niall penis in the hospital story to another penis in the hospital story, if we can.
When I was 18, I had to go to a dermatologist to get a mole removed from my upper thigh, and I was getting ready to jump on a train to go visit a college. I was doing like a college visit with one of my buddies. And so I went in there. I didn't really know what I was going in to do. I didn't realize they were going to be like cutting me open and stitching me up. I had like 10 stitches by the end of it. And I had no idea that was coming. So I go in there and they say, "Get into your boxers," or whatever. And the nurse, she rolled up my boxer leg. And her tips of her toes accidentally grazed my bird. She was older than me. There was no Nurse Ratched, maybe. Let's just say that, you wouldn't be expecting any type of a reaction from your penis.
So not more battle axe than
right.
MILF, if you will. Continue.
So she rolls up my pant leg and accidentally grazes my penis with her fingers that felt like sexy feathers.
Feathers.
And I remember immediately perking up, being like, "Oh no, what have you done? You have done a very terrible thing." And I knew, I was like, "What am I supposed to do? Oh shit, it's starting to, it's coming alive. It's taking over. I can't fight it any longer." And it was,
oh God, like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly, except a giant
boner. So the doctor comes in. And he's got his bald head inches away from my thigh, right? And the next thing you know, this thing is
birds of a feather flock together.
and he's doing his thing on the removing this mole on my thigh. By the way, it came back. It's all benign. We're all good. So, and he's like hovering there, right? And I'm like, this should be kryptonite. But the thing is, it was moving with a life of its own.
I
was like, I wasn't even attached to my brain. I wasn't thinking anything sexy. It just started moving and pulsating. And this thing it's literally flexing near his head. She doesn't know what to do. It just swings out. It literally just it just eventually swings out like it's on hinges. Comes out the bottom of the pant leg, and it swings out like in front of where he's trying to do his little surgical operation. And it's just there, and it just starts twitching like wah, wah. Just
like an air raid siren.
Yeah, no, it's just like flexing, like, hey, So the nurse has to put it back in, and this time, she has to literally lean on it with her arm to keep it back. It was like a pipe bomb. And meanwhile,
it's like hold me back, bro.
Yeah,
hold
and
me
meanwhile,
back.
the more pressure you're putting on it, the more that the cock is being like, "You want to go? You want to go?" Yeah, it's trying to flex back. It's literally trying to burst through a fucking brick wall. It's just trying to kick a door in like a cop. So the thing about it is I was so embarrassed afterwards. It was like the fog of war. I got out of there like, what the? I was covered and drenched in sweat. Like, that was...
God, I hope James McNamara wasn't involved.
The doctor looked just like him. No, and I remember thinking, oh Christ, what am I... And anyway, so I didn't want to go back to get the stitches removed because I never wanted to go back to see them again. I was I'll just forget about this. I don't know. And I chose not to think about it. And then 6 weeks later, my dad was cutting them out himself. And it was like basically almost gangrenic at this stage because they were like,
Jesus.
Yeah, they were infected inside of my thigh.
But gangrene can spread. I mean, you're lucky your dad got to it.
Well, I
in
only
time.
told him, and he's like, "What? You haven't had these taken out yet?" They had so many kids they couldn't keep up with it, so things like that could easily slip through the cracks. But no, you had to cut them out, and I can still touch the actual muscle in that space. The skin never healed properly.
So you have like a thin sort of you have it's like a what do you call it? Plastic wrap, cling wrap quality skin over that spot, and you can like reach in and grab your muscle,
I can like touch it. It's just
some kind of a meat puppet.
Jesus Christ! It looks like it literally looks like
you're like, come on.
Well, it looks
man.
like Frankenstein scar. You know what I mean? It looks like it's like the track, sort of the train track stitch scar that doesn't exist outside of Halloween costumes, but that's what it looks like. And I've never gone back to that dermatologist, so.
I don't think anybody listening, including myself, was picturing a dermatologist. I mean, I guess you said you were having a mole removed, but to me, as soon as I hear like gangrenous stitches and, like rebar dong that the lady's shoving with her elbow, usually where I'm going with this is when you go to the dermatologist, it's kind of like going to the dentist. I was picturing some like, dingy Philadelphia hospital where everyone's wearing like hospital green and things are really dark and somebody's hacking up a lung.
Even if they had been doing that, it wouldn't have changed anything about what went down, what transpired. I mean, the backdrop was decidedly unsexy. Amazing. It did not do anything to deflate the ramifications. That's right. I could feel my heart beating through my bird.
Oh my God, that's amazing, dude. Thank you for sharing that. So, my next story is actually a second chapter to that first story that I told. And as crazy as that one was with our serial killing forger who basically never met a partner he didn't want to murder and fake their will and take their estate from their children, this is a pretty wacky one too. There is a fairly notorious bandit in the late 1800s, early 1900s named Phil Crowley.
Mr. Crowley.
And he's marauding around Northern California and Mendocino County area. And he first gets to know Edgar A. Martin in Mendocino in 1890. They come across each other at the Legion of Doom or the Brotherhood of Evil meeting or whatever, And they're like, fuck Joker in the brain. You're my guy, right? So they hit it off. So Crowley and Martin go to the Legion of Doom meeting in Ukiah, California. I told you that the Emerald Triangle's pretty fucked up. Gotham's got nothing on Ukiah.
Only understatements, Batman.
They hit it off famously. Martin gets arrested, as we just talked about, and sentenced to 14 years in Folsom in 1892. Well, about a year later, in 1893, old Phil Crowley, the Northern California bandit animal, gets arrested for burglary, and he goes to Folsom as well. They become cellmates.
And lovers?
You had me at hello.
And Martin, or McDuffie, I mean, depending on which name he's going by, tells Crowley about what becomes known as the Mendocino Treasure. Between robbing Dutch Helt and getting arrested, Martin says that he took all of these thousands of dollars worth of U.S. Treasury bonds, plus whatever wealth he had on his person or access to through his endless string of pretty successful flim-flamming that we've already talked about, and he buried it out in the woods somewhere, marked by a giant white X. And the story goes...
Zuwatanego.
Yeah, like Zoolander.
Zuwatanego. Isn't that where in the Shawshank Redemption, remember he goes down to Mexico and he's like, and there'll be a brick wall.
You'll crawl through a culvert and I will be there with my bird out.
Under a tree and my cock will be sitting there.
Exactly. So he tells this story to Crowley, and Crowley and other prisoners know about it too, becomes obsessed with finding Martin's treasure, but obviously he's in Folsom Prison, and he hatches a scheme to get out. In general, the mental hospitals for the criminally insane outside of Arkham Asylum, where the actual Legion of Doom basically lives, are lower security than a prison. He just starts acting cuckoo bananas, ripping his hair out, tearing at his eyeballs, screaming and wailing, ripping off his clothes, and just acting like somebody on a super bad bath salts trip, day in and day out until finally they send the creepy madhouse doctors from the 19th century who pronounce him insane, and he is taken to a mental hospital in Contra Costa County.
I mean, anything was possible back then. It feels like the sky was the limit. Right. It was literally this easy to get whatever the fuck you wanted.
Well, but there was no digital record of anything at all. It's sort of the same thing I was saying about Martin. It's like you could literally lay waste to an entire town, and if you could find a way to get 40 miles away, nobody knew what you looked like, and you could just start a new life. So similarly, like, you know, these guys are basically the test case for everything. There's no like established 100 years of medical history on how you act when you're crazy or what have you. So yeah, he convinces everybody he's nuts, and he gets sent to a mental hospital. In the mental hospital, he's still in a cell. He's got what's called an organ boot, which is like where they put the friggin' ball and chain around your ankle, or iron boot on your foot so you can't run. And he's in a cell with bars in the window, like you might imagine. Honestly, the orderlies or the prison guards at the mental hospital, nobody really believes that he's actually insane, because this story of Martin's treasure has circulated through the prison. So even though the doctors in charge have announced that Crowley's insane, none of the people in charge of guarding him actually believe it. They think he's trying to escape. They're right. So what they do as an added precaution beyond the iron organ boot is they take all of his clothes away from him, all of them completely, and they leave him in his cell buck naked, chained to the floor. Okay? So this goes on for a little while until Martin starts to complain that he's piteously cold. I mean, sort of obviously. He's in like an empty stone cell with a window that's open to the outside except for the bars, and he's ass naked. And he's like, I am so cold, and I'm going to freeze to death and die of the flu or pneumonia or something if you guys won't give me some kind of clothes. For several days, they just sort of ignore his complaints and his wailings, but he keeps it up until finally somebody takes pity on him and gives him a set of underclothes. The long-armed, long-legged pajamas that they used to wear, right?
Right, like the potato sack, scratchy fabric.
Right, like a burlap.
Chain gang. Yeah, the chain gang
exactly,
burlap sack.
A burlap onesie. Yeah, exactly. A flour bag tracksuit.
A precursor to the unitard.
Can you still say unitard these days?
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way between being ass naked in an organ boot in an open cell to the elements and actually getting his long johns back, he manages to get his hands on a piece of steel and a little piece of tin. Okay. He is then able to use the piece of steel to slowly saw through the bars of the window to his cell. He's able to bend the piece of tin. I guess these locks weren't particularly sophisticated, to create a key for the organ boot, or at least a lock pick. And he's able to pick the organ boot lock and take the organ boot off. He's able to saw through one of the bars enough to shove the bars out, and then to use his long johns, I guess he's not too many stories up, to climb down out the window. And when he's halfway down, he ends up right in front of the window of another inmate who's like, hey, bro, where the hell you going? He's like, shut the fuck up, you know? And he escapes.
I think he deserves to stay free. It should be one of those things. I mean, wasn't that a rule at like Alcatraz? If you could get off, you were allowed to stay off?
I think that might have been a rule with you and Nurse Ratchet, but
yeah, I'm conflating it with like a Running Man or something.
So here's the thing about Crowley, because he was a notorious bandit already, and one of the things that he would do is he'd go up to people, like when he's on the lam, he'd be like, I'm Phil Crowley, can I have some breakfast? I'm Phil Crowley, can I have some dinner? Or like he was very open about who he was, and he was generally a pretty friendly guy. If there wasn't like a sheriff or someone empowered to arrest him, like there in town at that moment, he would just like show up, go to the bars, tell some stories to people, and then take off again. He was like on the lam and in hiding, but only so much. So he's on the lam running through Northern California, Mendocino County, and on November 24th, 1895, somebody reports his location. The sheriffs and the deputies go out there, and he's basically holed up in the mountains, and there's a posse at the foot of the mountain, and he's got nowhere to go. And the newspaper said, this is the San Francisco Chronicle, so not just some insane yellow journalism paper, calls Crowley's capture or death a matter of days. Okay, that's November 24th, 1895. Well, then Crowley goes pretty dark, and I couldn't find a whole lot about him until July 3rd, 1896. And now he's in Caliente, California. Now, this is not the Caliente, Niall, that you and I visited in season 1. That's in Nevada. This is Caliente, California in Kern County, where he's been, again, sort of holed up in the woods. But he sends a letter to the local sheriff on July 2nd that says, yeah, I'm going to come down into town because I want to register to vote in the election this fall.
Gotta do your civic duty.
I'm just gonna let that sit there for a minute. Now, 1896, that was McKinley versus William Jennings Bryan. We have an outlaw that's been on the lam for a couple of years, who had already been incarcerated multiple times, and he wants to vote so bad that he's going to come down into town and register. We can't get, we had the biggest voter turnout in the history of America in the last election, and I think they said like 70% of people voted or something.
I mean, it really just based on these stories, it seems like we're devolving at a rapid rate. This man is like 10 times more evolved and more capable than anybody right now. He's literally not only is he a criminal, but he's also like, well, I've got to do my civic duty. It's a matter of principle.
Willing to risk his freedom, willing to give himself up so that he can go down into town and register to vote. I mean,
why couldn't he just forge?
He's not the forger. He's the forger's cellmate, and maybe that's what this story should be called.
His lover. The forger's lover.
The forger's lover. Yeah, God, that sounds like a book I would never read. I mean, it's really pretty remarkable. He's willing to risk his freedom, go back to prison for a long time. As far as we know, he has not found Martin's White X treasure yet. But he's
Well, wait. Well, one point I want to make is maybe so the 1890s, that's like the era of yellow journalism at its height.
Oh, yeah.
Its most partisan. Maybe literally, we look at people who are going insane from the partisan news. Maybe he's literally up in a cave somewhere in Kern County reading this fucking newspaper, being like, if I don't get down there,
that pedophile is going to become president.
Yeah, he's like, there's lizard people, and they're eating the babies.
Yeah.
Now is not a time to think about oneself.
Oh, my God, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, man. So, I mean, I wish they had told me who he wanted to vote for. Was it the King of Free Silver, William Jennings Bryan, the inspiration for the Wizard of Oz, or was it McKinley, who, and this is bringing it full circle, whose statue stands in the center of town on the plaza in Arcata, California, in Humboldt County, in the heart of the Emerald Triangle. So anyway, I hate to disappoint you guys. I hate to disappoint you, Niall. But beyond that, I could find no further reference to the fate of Crowley. I could not discover whether Edgar A. Martin got out of prison and went and got his treasure or not, or whether he died on the inside. I don't know what happened to these guys, but even without closure, I feel like these were stories that just, were pretty fucking fascinating. And I would just like to remind everybody that the Mendocino Treasure, the bonds buried by California's most successful con man and one of its most depraved serial killers, may still be out there. So, fire up your metal detectors. Go take a look.
It's just an old weathered Playboy magazine in a little tin can buried underground.
Oh my God, when I was a young kid, like 10 or 11 years old, my friend and I had like an old beaten Playboy magazine that we hid in a log, like in a stump on his parents'
Everybody
property.
did.
That's what everybody did, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever needed a porno, you would just go to like a creek somewhere, look around and see if you could find some weathered, like handed down generational beat magazine.
Oh my God.
Like a swank.
Jackpot.
Yeah. Oh God.
Well, I think we've fully explored about everything and more than we wanted to, so for Niall Madden, I'm Zevon Odelberg, and this has been Kinda Murdery.
Kinda Murdery, The Emerald Triangle, is created, researched, edited, produced, and hosted by Zevon Odelberg, with opening theme by Niall Madden and art by the Gin of Lang. Available now on all podcasting platforms. If you like the show, please subscribe, review, and tell your friends. You can find us on social media at Kinda Murdery or email at kindamurdery@gmail.com.